Hey, Paradox for JuanSource.com, and I'm going to be doing a video article today on Nuke pistols. So, going to get right into it. I'm going to be doing the T pistols, continuing that whole kind of series I'm doing. So, I'm going to go over 3 different strats now. Nuke's a map where, especially on T pistol round, I think you have a lot of options. You know, you could go outside, you could work the outside really well, you could work the upper bomb site, and you could also work the ramp. I mean, you could, those are 3 major places you could go, and I think you could really work all of them. So I'm going to have a strat designed kind of to go through each, you know, kind of designed to work a different part of the map. Alright, so you guys have a lot of options. Okay, the first one, which is the one I most recently ran, I don't know if you guys remember, I was playing on a team with some of my friends from CGS, and we would do this T-pistol strat on Nuke a lot, and this will be an outside split. I call it outside pressure into upper split. Okay, that's going to be the kind of the idea of the strat. Now, 2 people are going to go outside, and the buys for outside should be a deagle and a USP nade. Alright, and this is going to put a lot of pressure on that on the outside player to hit his shots. Pretty much it's going to be 2 of you against usually one of them, and you're going to have, not only are you going to have you know, the guns with the USP and the deagle, but you also have a grenade, which a lot of people don't expect, and once they fall back, you know, they may spot and try to fall back. You could get some good entry nade damage as a T, as a terrorist, you know, going offensive with that nade. And a lot of people don't expect that, especially on pistol round, and without having armor, that nade could be really damaging. You know, you figure you could take off at least maybe 25 health, maybe up to, you know, maybe like 55, 60 health, bring them down really low, and then you figure, you know, 1, maybe 2 shots with a USP and a deagle are going to take that guy out. So, so that's going to be the 2 outside players. Now, I'd recommend that you hold back for nade. Alright, you may not want to go too aggressive in the beginning. My experience here is that as a CT, I've caught people with nades, and I've also gotten caught with a nade trying to go too quick on this. So you could maybe try to let that guy get set up outside, you know, if he wants to go to right side of warehouse, wherever he wants to play. Just kind of work your angles and work spots out. Be aware of people trying to random peek. And besides that, try to pretty much just locate that guy, the primary outside player, and try to put a lot of pressure on him. Now, from here, we're going into an upper wrap. Alright, if you don't spot anything outside, you know, say you're spotting everything out, there's nobody top rafter, nobody red box here, could be likely that there's a player playing out by that pipe, so you do want to be wary of that if you don't spot anybody. If you do spot somebody, still be aware that they're, like, say you spot somebody at mini or something like that early on, be aware that there may be another player outside, either over at CT spawn usually. I think that'd be the better place to play. Sometimes by the warehouse somewhere, you know, this mini player may be baiting for that outside or supporting early on, so you do still want to be a little bit aware of that there may be another player outside. And usually for what I see a lot of teams do is that once you put a lot of pressure as a T on outside, that rafter guy will try to come out and support, and that's why I want to take a quick in the upper with the strat, is because they're going to be kind of off balance. And also I think that teams that try to play in the site at upper on pistol round should have a lot of problems. I mean, you figure you're going to have at least 4 players, usually 5, coming into the upper bomb site. The USP, you know, even if you have aerial advantage and all this stuff, if you're playing in the site, you really have no fallback point. Is really the main concern as a CT, and you're really exploiting that by taking that upper bomb site. Not only that, but you're probably going to cause a few rotations to the outside, and as long as you wrap on the mini quickly, say you get a pick outside, that's almost guaranteed a rotation, you know, so you can't really go backstairs or whatnot. But even if you don't get that pick, you're going to draw a lot of attention here. If you see somebody retreat in the mini, it's going to be up to your other players to really help out and make a play as well. So that's the 2 outside players, deagle and USP nade, and then you're going to have your 3 players go in the lobby. Now, instead of sending 3 out, or I kind of toyed with this idea, thought about it a bit, I prefer to send the majority of force with the bomb. I figured 2 people outside. At the worst, normally you're going to be fighting against 2 players, normally against 1 player, and they're going to try to be falling back. At that point, you know, it's about shot hitting. So no real excuse if 1 person gets picked off by 2. You figure you have the same weapon, and you also have a grenade. You also have a deagle, which is really powerful and piss around. You know, just 1 shot across the map, headshot, or even hit him in the chest for about 35-40 damage. So you figure, you know, you gotta make that play outside. You can't let 1 guy shut you down. So I'm sending 3 people here to the lobby. I'd recommend, kind of the default thing to do is to send 1 up the ladder right here, get a sort of different angle on covering, and send perhaps, you know, either 1 player squeaky or send a 2nd player over towards the ramp. You're going to have at least 1 player towards the ramp. And now, in the beginning, I'd kind of hold back. Some teams may try to do a really aggressive push here. If they do, you definitely want to be set up crossfiring and whatnot. Definitely don't try to, you know, try not to get caught off guard here. 1 player at ramp is going to be responsible for kind of testing ramp. Now, the main thing about testing, and you figure they're going to have a USP, they're not really going to be able to snipe you. You really want to use your movement and just kind of cause a ruckus. You know, you may take a little bit of damage, but try not to just peek a default angle and get headshotted. You know, your main idea is not to take a ton of damage, at the same time make some sort of presence over at the ramp. I really like just jumping around a lot, because long range flick headshots with pistols are really hard to get and almost never happen. So, you know, just kind of make a little bit of a presence. Don't risk too much here. Maybe draw a grenade into here. Normally, if you cross over to the side, almost guaranteed nade coming out. So you may want to just cross back and kind of beat that nade out. So just make a little bit of a ruckus with 1 player there. Maybe send the 2nd player over here to support and kind of be floater. And then if you want the 3rd person either up on the ladder or squeaky would be a decent place to go as well. I would do that too, because you get an alternate angle if they do heavy push hut. And if they do push squeaky, I'm a big fan of just holding somebody here. You never really want to get caught in a spot where they're going to take over the squeaky door's CT and then, you know, kind of come behind you. This is really the unexpected point. So I don't really want that to be an option for them, really. If you set 1 player here, you're going to be at the advantage. So anyway, you have your 3 players lobby. That's kind of what's going on early round, and this is going to be a timing, big kind of timing base, depending on the players outside, how fast they can go, if they're getting delayed or not. So communication has to be up the entire round on the strat, and it starts really with the outside players. The lobby players really have to be ready to go before the outside players are wrapping on mini. You don't want to be wrapping on mini and say, alright, we're coming to site, and now everybody in the lobby, you know, there's still 1 player over at the ramp and all this stuff. Your take's going to be uncoordinated that way. So I recommend running this, even dry running it a bit and getting the timings down, maybe throwing in a delay or 2 or something like that, in order to kind of get used to how that's going to work, you know, with the delays and all that, and the timing most importantly. You know, if you go full speed, you want to know what full speed is. You want to be prepared for that full speed. That's ideal. And then any obstacle that comes along your way, you want to just be able to communicate and really coordinate no matter what happens. That's going to be the key on the strat. So this is, you know, overall a simple strat, but the execution has to be right. You know, it's not overly complicated, but you do have to put some time and work into it. Alright, at this point, you gotta do your 3 lobby players. I recommend that 2 players go out the squeaky and 1 player out the hut. I don't really like forcing players out the hut here, out the door, because there's a lot of angles. You know, you have Heaven over here. The main thing about the hut is that the Heaven player can play a little bit passive. You know, he's not exposed. Wow. He's not exposed to like squeaky and mini and all that, so that player can be spotting the hut from Heaven and not worry about all that. Now if you send most of your force out mini and squeaky, if there's a player Heaven, which is almost guaranteed on CT pistol, this player is going to have to kind of try to swing out and then at the same time worry about the hut. So he's, you know, he's always going to be, if he's not fighting, he's going to be worried about the hut at the same time, you know. So I recommend sending most of your force out that way. Also, it's really hard as a CT, at least on pistol round, to get an angle good enough to just headshot a lot of people coming out the squeaky. You may want to be aware of somebody playing really close on the door and mowing you down that way, but most of the time, if you time it right, your many guys are going to be coming in at the same time. That sort of eliminates all this kind of stuff right here. All the close-up stuff, and you're pretty much going to force them to play either in rafters if they even decide to play the upper bomb site, and at that point it's really hard to get accurate shots with a USP and conserve ammo enough to get 4 or 5 players running in on this bomb site at one time. Almost guaranteed to trade at best, really playing that bomb site. So that's going to be that. All about timing, really. The player hut, I'd recommend that he comes out and kind of supports the people squeaky and all that. Doesn't really come out the hut too early. Some players may try to play forklift. If you don't want to buy Glock armor, then you could buy a deagle or maybe USP nade and maybe nade that forklift. That's always a big pain in the butt for anybody playing there. So so yeah, delay out this hut, and really you want to kind of time your peaks. The person hut really wants to let the first 4 kind of come out, support a little bit, stay alive, and then once those 4 are coming out and putting a ton of pressure on the site, you figure that rafter player is going to try to help out, and you could get some quick peeks off and keep that guy honest right there. At the same time, you can be aware of your flank at ramp. So you could easily run the strat to the lower bomb site too. I'm going to have another strat that's going to use that. It's going to be more of an upper rush, but you could definitely, if you don't get too many entries in this bomb site or they're playing really passive, I'd say you probably just want to plant. If you do get entries and you anticipate a retake, you may want to take the bomb lower. Have that option open and practice the strat with kind of both options in mind. Okay, so you're prepared that way. Alright, so recap, the strat is called outside into upper split, 2 players outside, deagle, USP, nade are the 2 buys, 3 people at lobby, 1 person putting pressure ramp early on, and working into 1 person hut, 2 person squeaky, and 2 person mini, pretty much all at the same time with the hut a little bit delayed. Okay, so that's going to be the first strat, revolving a little bit around outside. Second strat is going to be an upper rush, okay, and this is going to be spawn based really. I do want you to have this option. I think that if you do get a spawn, I think it's probably the best route to go. So unless you anticipate an upper stack or something out of the ordinary, you're especially on 2 pistol round, you're going to be successful with the up rush. So spawns usually line up around here, at least 2 people in the front around this window. These 2, the first person has to buy flashbang, so whatever else you want to buy, go with whatever you want, but have at least 1 flashbang. First guy has to. Second guy in line is going to have a HE grenade, so that's going to be the first 2 buys. No Glock armor for the first 2 players, okay? So 3, 4, and 5, I'd say 3rd person should probably have the bomb, 3rd or 4th person, and those 2 are going to stick in a pack. 3 and 4 are always going to stick in a pack until they get to the lower bomb site. So really, the 5th person, I do kind of want them to go with them, but if you want to do something different, that's fine too. So anyway, that's kind of your buys. 3, 4, and 5, the buys don't really matter too much. I'd say, really whatever you want to get, whatever you're comfortable with. So this upper rush is kind of, I don't know if I've gone over a gun round version of the strat, but this is going to be really simple, and this is my take on upper rush. Kind of same thing as a gun round. I do first person out the squeaky, out the door really quick, flash primed, open the door, go top, and swing out over here to this left side. And you could work angles, but you really want to be against this left wall is the main thing. That flash is going to pretty much blind everything in the bomb site. Anybody trying to cross rafters, anything that happens like that, you're going to be able to shut that down that way. Okay. You're also focusing on the mini at this point too. This is going to be your main priority, and your teammates are going to take care of the top left and anybody crossing that way. Alright, so that's first person out. Really, you want to have everybody be able to do this really quickly and be efficient and be correct with it. If you mess up here, you're gonna mess up the whole strat. Okay, so little fundamental things. You really want every person to know that flash, know that pattern, okay, and have it second nature. Okay, so that's the first spawn. Second spawn, I said, buys an HE grenade. Really, what you want to do is take an angle on the hut. Alright, and get good at doing this quickly too. Now see, that may be a little slow. Little minor details may make the difference. You want to make sure you get that nade out the window and as quick as possible. Okay, so you want to be confident in that HE grenade, and that's really going to do a lot of damage to the mini player. And the timing should be that if the mini player's not in already, if they're trying to play kind of from that outside, they're going to take a lot of damage and try to back off or run away from that grenade, and that's going to make your route to lower a lot easier. Alright, the reason I don't have this person running up either and having, have a nade early on instead is because a lot of teams will throw at least one HE grenade into the hut early on from rafter, pistol around, and it's just unnecessary damage for you to take to just run and try to frag that. I think that HE does kind of the same trick. Kind of around the same timing, and then you could kind of wait for nades or work angles a little bit, and after that you could support and maybe even peek out the hut or do something like that and make them, once again, keep them honest there. If you want to fall back and flank the ramp if you're still alive, that's a really good use of that second player kind of doing everything that round. So that's going to be number 1, number 2 spawn. Number 1 out squeaky with the flash, and second person hut with a grenade. 3, 4, and 5 with the bomb coming out of the spawn. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit. Everyone's going to go out the squeaky. So I'd say the third person has the bomb, drops down the vent, boom. The timing should be immediate. Okay, you should not have to worry about a ramp rotator too much. Like, you get into the bomb site and you start planting the bomb immediately. So the main thing here, try to plant to cover for the doors, so both the doors can cover. You don't really want to plant in a place like right here where somebody can defuse from behind and ice doors completely out of the picture. You really want to kind of plant in the open and try to cut off one side of this ramp. You kind of want to have to make somebody come out to actually try to shoot you to kill the planter. Really, all you want to do, move up a little bit, close one of the angles off, and you're going to be good that way. Alright, you could do that. You could maybe even close this angle off. This may be a little bit better, and then retreat into this ice door. So you're gonna, third person is going to plant. 4 and 5, I'd recommend that they go down the vents with this person, and the first person down the vent should try to cross over to the other side of the vent. Very likely that you're not going to, almost a guarantee you're not going to have to worry about the backhaul early on. Alright, so I think the best thing to do is to guarantee this plant and try to spot out this ramp. So even if you have a Glock, you could kind of peek in and out and keep them honest. Once again, don't let them peek that planter. If they want to peek that planter, you're going to peek out and long range with the Glock. Just take your time and headshot them and keep them off that plant. Once you get that plant down, the vents players, I'd say you want to all get into the back hall, because this is the best place to defend the bomb from. If you could get 2 players into one hallway, so 2 players in ice, one guy maybe up here by the windows causing a lot of ruckus, and another player kind of watching his back right here, watching the back hall. Maybe even cross-firing the back hall a little bit, and say another player barrel door. That's going to be the best setup. You should pretty much never lose a round like that playing the back halls, as long as, once again, on that bomb defense, you don't want to just peek out and try to, always kill the diffuser or try to kill people running into the site. All you want to do is make them worry about you, really. And at some points, you may even want to just hide completely. If somebody else gives away their position, you don't really want everybody to give away their position. So, so maybe have at least one player play passive. Kind of depends on the situation. But if anything, make them worry about you and make them spend a lot of time even entering the bomb site. After that, you're going to force them to come after you, and coming through these doors is really difficult against one, maybe 2 players over on the ice side, You know, maybe if you have a fourth person alive flanking ramp or going down the vents, that's ideal. You know, you're going to hold this bomb site as long as you don't play stupid and get picked off. Okay, and just give them opportunities to pick you off and you know, have an easier time. So, once again, going to recap the strat. This is going to be an up rush to lower plant. Okay, so up rush to lower take. First person with a flashbang. Okay, once again, spawn based. First person flashbang, squeaky, boom. High flash, hold against this wall, let your teammates come out, help with the mini right here. After that, after your teammates come out, alright, or after that flashbang goes off, then you could peek out and help out, alright? And you could do that. This first person after that, you could really just cause a ruckus in the upper site. You don't have to go lower, alright? Second person is going to be going hut with a nade. Once again, get this nade down really quickly, get into the angle, and nade mini. Okay? After that, you probably want to wait out a grenade over here in the hut, and then you want to come out and support again. Alright? 3, 4, and 5 are going to go out squeaky, down the vent. Alright, first person has a bomb, so that's number 3 in line technically. Once again, plant hidden from one side. So number 3 is the planter. Number 4 and 5 are going to spread out in the vents. Right? Going to spread out in the vents and cover that planter from a guy trying to pick him off from the ramp. After this happens, the guys at upper should buy you enough time to get into the back hall, and you defend from there. You have at least a 2-man defense, usually a 3 or 4-man defense on the lower bomb site, and that should guarantee a round win once you get that bomb plant and control the back halls. Okay, so that's going to be up rush to lower plant. If you're lucky enough to get the spawn, definitely have the strat in the book, have it prepared, have it drilled. Okay, so anytime, you know, in the case that you do get the spawn, you can start out with that really and set the pace of the game. Okay, so that's going to be strat number 2. Alright, so strat number 1 is outside pressure to upper split. Number 2 is upper rush to lower bomb site take. Alright? And now for the third strat, now you have 2, I'd say fairly complex strats, not as complex as really your execution needs to be on for them to work. Alright, third strat is going to be a very simple ramp rush. Okay, you have your outside already, you have your upper, and you know, you technically have 2 upper takes, and now you're going to have a ramp take. Okay, I think the best way to do this is with the ramp rush. Now, you don't really need a spawn as much as you do on that upper for a ramp rush. I mean, if you have terrible spawns, you probably don't want to do this strat, and I'd probably stick with the outside one. But if you do get a fairly decent spawn, you know, maybe you're not really confident in the upper strat, or it's not really a good enough spawn for that upper strat to go, you know, say 2 people spawn really far ahead, and then the 3rd and 4th and 5th people get really terrible spawns, or, you know, you're really split up, you may want to instead do a ramp rush. Now, really, all this is going to be, you're going to have 1 or 2 options. There's really not much more to this. This is a really basic strat, but it works, and that's why I'm suggesting it. I think this is the best way to take ramp on pistol rounds. So, first person, 1 or 2 options. 1, you could flash over the box. The problem with that, the issue with that, is that it's going to telegraph your strat just by about a second or 2. Alright, and that's going to give enough time, if somebody sees that flash, you know, and they're coming in, that's going to give enough time, especially with the separation of that first guy to the 5th guy, that may give enough time for this guy to get a nade off. Alright, and get a grenade off and get a ton of entry damage that way, especially if not all your guys have armor. That could cause a lot of problems for you. So you do really want to be selective and kind of, you know, maybe even test out what works better for you. You may want to have this first person flash, or you may just want to run out and just run in and overwhelm with numbers. Okay, I think if you, it's a real surprise factor here. Normally the first person will beat, you know, will be about here by the time that the CT gets down to the bottom of that ramp. Even if they have a support player there, you figure USPs at a medium to long range, it's going to be really difficult for them to take out 5 people coming out the same side. So especially if that guy gets committed over to this ramp, that's going to be an easy pick. I'd say if you ever get a pick on this ramp, you plow lower as quickly as you possibly can. On this strat, probably good to have at least one USP, maybe a deagle, so you can sit back and kind of cover the vents and make sure nobody comes out of there. Once again, once you plant, this time you may want to plant against the box so you're kind of covered from that vent since you're going to have control. The main thing here is going to be to swarm the backhaul. You really just want to send most of your force backhaul. At least 3 players are going to be taking the backhaul one way or another. Alright, so I'd say the planner may want to support over at the barrel side and have another player actually go into the barrel side, so that's going to be 2 players plus the planner, alright, taking control. The main thing here is you don't want to be caught off guard by somebody early rotating or playing passive or something like that. You definitely want to take control of the backhaul, and you could risk that extra, maybe 2 seconds before the bomb plant to have the planner actually come out and support the barrel door. The reason I want that happening is because 2 players are going to go on the ice side. Alright, so 1 player may try to hop through quickly, maybe 2. I'd say the second player should probably come down here, clear this dark spot, don't get caught off guard by something silly like that, anybody playing in a corner, and come through the ice side this way, and that way you 2 can take control of the backhaul. This way 1 can kind of focus on this side, 1 can focus on anybody coming from the outside to lower. Alright, once you take control, once you're playing on the ice side, you want to kind of be wary of people coming from this side. You don't really want to be playing angles like this too much. You want to reserve that for the people playing barrel, I'd say a majority of the time. Unless you have a player already covering, then you could, sort of crossfire. You could do both, kind of cycle in between, something I'd like to do. So, anyway, really simple ramp rush, not much to it. Alright, so remember, first person either flashes or you just plow in, really kind of just trying to catch people off guard. Even if they play 2 at this ramp, sometimes they'll play 1, it's a worthy gamble. Only problem you're ever going to run into is a CT pistol that I like to run, which revolves around a ramp stack with 3 people playing over at the ramp. Okay, and that's going to be really your only issue you're going to run into if somebody took my advice and used that CT pistol. Otherwise, you should be good to go. You figure 1, even 2 players playing there, they're going to have a lot of trouble with 5 players coming out without being able to use their grenades. Once you get out, there's really not a great angle for somebody to fall back, say at the turnpike, and use a grenade. Or somebody fall back down the ramp and use a grenade. These guys are going to be really pressured, not really going to get a lot of nade damage no matter what they do. And even if they're able to fall back, you can hunt them down. Now, from this ramp, you don't always have to go lower. I'd say 90% of the time you just want to try to get that entry pick and go lower as quickly as possible. But kind of play it by ear. Some teams are going to play this lower passively, so you may just want to try to sneak down. And if you're able to sneak through the lower, maybe call an audible or something like that, just something that you don't normally do, and maybe try to either sneak over to the vent and get up the vents, or if you're going to take this lower side in kind of sneaky way, then I'd work up this rail, maybe send 1 towards the vent, and then drop 2 players onto the barrel and just run this guy over that way. You don't really want him to have too many angles or be able to spot you too early, because if he spots you too early, like say you just run in and the player spots you, you're going to have a lot of trouble there. If somebody spots you over at the vent, you could try to have a little bit of a firefight. If you do get spotted early that way, may not be the best idea to go lower because they'll probably be rotated. If you do, you have to go immediately. You have no hesitation. Alright, if you get spotted early on from the vents, okay, somebody's playing in the vents and you're trying to go lower, you cannot hesitate even a split second because they will be set up by then. I think the best route to go at that point is to try to get into the ice side and wrap around the backhaul. Alright, and try to take control that way. Okay, and maybe keep 1 person up top, keep that person in vents occupied. Okay, don't let them run out and run into the bomb site. Okay, you also have the option of going heaven if you do kill a player turnpike. Pretty likely that they're not going to have a player heaven, so that is an option. I'm not too big a fan of it. it does work on pistol round pretty decent because they do have USPs, and you could just kind of come up and burst fire Glock and do damage that way, or maybe have somebody distracting outside, even something like that. You know, whatever you want to do. Don't be afraid to slow the strat down too. If you kind of got past that point of execution I'm talking about and you get spotted out and all that, don't be afraid to fall back, especially if you got an entry pick. Don't be afraid to fall back and maybe even wrap around to outside. You definitely have time in this format to do that. So, I mean, this is a really simple strat to begin with, but then you have a lot of options. So, number one option, like I said, is going to be to just try to plow down the ramp and plow into lower. That's going to be your safest bet on the pistol round. Probably your number two bet is going to be to slow down and back out and maybe try to work some kind of split, maybe on the heaven, and occupy that guy at heaven with maybe an outside player or something like that, and kind of work a split that way. At the very least, if you miss your window opportunity like I'm talking about, you want to delay enough so the players have time to reset. Okay, so you figure if you try to go at the wrong time here, you may have a player over here, you know, at the barrel side. You may have somebody vent, maybe even somebody rotating from outside to lower backhaul, and that's going to cause you a ton of problems if you try to take that site at that point. You're not really going to be able to take control. So if you miss your window opportunity, you know, don't panic, don't try to force it. Like I said, it has to be as quick as you possibly can make it. So if you miss that window opportunity, just, you know, fall back and maybe work a little bit of a split. You know, this is probably a good time to run a little bit of a fake, maybe make them worry about upper a little bit, make those backhauls guys, since they're pretty committed to, you know, defending the lower bomb site, you may want to make them worry a little bit, maybe rotate back to the vents, and this way you have a easy route into the lower bomb site. So, you know, once again, a pretty simple strat to begin with. Ramp rush, I mean, you figure, hey, you know, I just gave you a pretty obvious choice, but I think it's the best way to go. You know, I'm not going to try to create something fancy and have it not be as effective as a really simple strat. You know, that's really not my job to do. It's my job to tell you what works best, why it works that way, and also how to make it work. So that's going to be a ramp rush for your third strat. Okay, once again, to recap, you have your outside strat, your two players outside, into upper strat. You have your upper rush into lower bomb site take. That's number two. And then you have your ramp rush, which is number three. And once again, I went through a ton of options that you'll have just based on that one strat. You know, you take that choke point at ramp, and that sets up your attack from there, either instantaneous or back off and slow down. All right, and kind of work a little bit of a split. All right, so T-pistols on Nuke. Once again, I want you guys to remember to be prepared for anything that happens. Nuke can be a spawn-based map, so I want you guys to have, you know, strats that are gonna take advantage of the spawns, and you know, also have strats that if you don't get the proper spawn, or if you need to implement a little bit of variety depending on how the other team's playing, how you anticipate the other team playing, you're going to be able to do that as long as you're prepared. You're not going to get caught off guard. You know, that's the silliest way to lose, is getting caught off guard. So that's going to be that on Nuke. Remember, you have all your options there. Nuke really a map where you could work anywhere equally, I'd say. You know, kind of any option that you have is going to be sort of equal depending on your spawns and your circumstances that way. So that's going to be it for today. I mean, that's T-pistols on Nuke. Pretty comprehensive, I'd say. Once again, if you guys have any comments, any feedback, any strats of your own, any ideas, you know, maybe any tweaks that you guys have, any feedback at all, any input, greatly appreciated, and it helps everybody out. So that's it for me today. That's Paradox for JuanSource, and I'll see you guys next time.